Let's kick off our Christmas in July series with some snowman DIYs and try to stay cool this summer. Thank you guys for stopping by Lavender and Lace. I'm Alicia. Welcome back to my viewers that come and see me each week. And hello if you are new here. Thank you for stopping by today. Please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy the content, and let's get started with today's projects. I grabbed some of my spray paint in the white color, and this is the 2 times the paint plus primer. I love this spray paint. I get really good coverage. And I took one of my empty coffee cans outside and I gave that 2 good coats of paint. And Creative Fabrica is one of my favorite websites that I can go to and find any images or fonts. There's also cardstock designs that you can find on there as well. This is just one of my go-tos when I am looking for a specific design for a project. And I just searched snowman faces and found some that I really liked and thought were super cute. And I just uploaded those to my Cricut design space. And I put in a square the size of my coffee can that I will be applying this vinyl to. And I just sized my snowman face to be able to fit into that square area so I would know for sure that this would fit on the front of my coffee can. And you can easily change the colors of your designs once you are in design space. This one just pulled up all black, and of course I wanted to cut this out with some different colors. So I just put in a oval shape, and you just want to cover the part of the original image that you are wanting to change the color of. You will select the shape that you have inserted and also the entire image that you already have on your canvas there. And then you just hit the slice option, and that will just completely cut out the part that you are wanting to change the color of. You can delete all of the extra pieces that you don't need, and then you can just easily change the color of whatever part you are working with. And I did that for the nose as well as the little circle for my snowman's cheek. I wanted that one to be pink. And I also just added some smaller white circles to be a little bit more detail for his eyes and just make that pop a little bit more. But just that slice option is a very easy way that you can just change out the colors for your design. And you can also cut multiple colors on the same mat. I just cut out the size that I would need for each design on my snowman's face and just place that in different areas on my mat. And then once you are back in design space, you can click on each color and just move around the image that you're going to be cutting out, and you can just line that up with where the colored vinyl is on the mat. That is just a little bit of a time-saving tip that I have learned while I have been doing my Cricut stuff. It's just an easy way to only have to cut things once. Just make sure that you get everything lined up and all of your vinyl pieces match where your design is on the screen. And if you don't have a cutting machine, you could easily do this with just some vinyl that you can pick up at the Dollar Tree. You could just draw out the shape that you wanted to on the back of that vinyl and just cut it out with some scissors. But since I have a Cricut, I opted to go that route. And once I had everything cut out, I just weeded out all of the pieces for my snowman's face. And then I just layered everything onto that one piece of paper. This just makes it a lot easier to apply to whatever surface that I am working with. I just peeled off all of those pieces and just laid them in the right spots on my snowman's face. And I just added that to some paper transfer tape. And I like to use that when I am using any kind of surface that I have painted. It just protects that paint a little bit better, and I don't have any issues with my transfer tape pulling up any of my paint. So I just carefully pulled back that backing sheet from all of my vinyl design, and I just centered that onto my coffee can where I wanted it. Just press that down with my fingers first, and then I like to use my burnishing tool just to make sure that I have everything applied well. And I am totally going to be saving as many coffee cans as I can this year and adding to my snowman family because I think this is just absolutely adorable. And just to add a little bit of embellishment on the top and just to, of course, hide the top of that coffee can and the lid, I grabbed just a piece of scrap fabric that I had in my stash. This actually was from a sweater that I picked up at the thrift store. I just wrapped that around the top and just kind of measured that out. Just cut off any of the excess that I didn't need, and I just used some hot glue to glue that all the way around the top of my coffee can. And then I just did add a little bit of extra hot glue on the top just to make sure I had all of those seams glued down as well. And just to give my hat a little bit of shape, I added some polyfill stuffing. You could use whatever you had on hand, maybe an old pillow or something like that. But I wanted this to have some shape and not just be flat on the top of my snowman. And I just secured that with a rubber band and just cut off some of that excess. And I also just cut off a smaller piece of the sweater to wrap around that rubber band just to hide that a little bit better and just for everything to blend in well. And then I just grabbed some greenery and some berry picks and some pine cones that I had in my stash. I think all of these came from Walmart and the Dollar Tree. I just like to keep several different options on hand and just add them to projects. So I cut down some smaller pieces and just did a dry fit, kind of just placed everything where I thought it would look the best, and then I just attached everything with some hot glue. And I added that cute little snowflake to the top, and my snowman is finished. I love the way he turned out. He is one of my favorite Christmas and wintertime decor pieces that I have made. What do you guys think about this one? I had found this hat at Dollar Tree in their 4th of July section this year, and I grabbed it because I thought it would be the perfect hat for a snowman. And then I just paired that with this other Island Time sign that they had in the summer selection. And I just started this by removing all of those hangers, and I popped off that little band piece on the hat. And I have learned my lesson with these Dollar Tree signs with all of this glitter. I either cover them with craft paper like I'm doing for this one, or I take them out and sand all this glitter off. Otherwise, it just gets all over everything and I can't get rid of it. So to save myself a little bit of headache and time, I went ahead and covered both pieces with just some of this craft paper, and you can pick that up at the Dollar Tree as well. And I just used one of my trusty Elmer's glue sticks to get that paper attached to both of these signs. I like to have a lot of these on hand. I try to stock up on these when they have these in the back to school supplies, so be sure you grab those around the summertime. And I just grabbed several different colors of my Waverly chalk paint. I want to do the hat in the color ink, the circle in Snow White, and then I just did that band with my crimson. You could totally change out that color for the band, and this would transition easily into winter time if you don't want to do that red for Christmas. I did 2 coats of the white on the circle and 2 coats of the red for the hat band, and I just glued that back onto the front of his top hat. And then I just positioned the hat on the top of the snowman's head to see where I wanted that, and then just marked out some guidelines so I would know exactly where to put that down once I had my hot glue on there. And I had this frame from a canvas. I used the canvas for another project and I had just saved this. This one is a 16 by 20 size. And I just put my snowman's face behind that frame. And I had looked up some different snowman faces on Google and just picked out one that I thought was cute. And I didn't want him to look happy. I wanted him to look like he was looking through a window and wanted to be inside where it was warm. So I made his face look a little wistful or sad, I guess you would say. So I just traced that out, and then I just took some acrylic paint and I painted his eyes with the black, and then I just did his nose with the orange. And it took 2 coats of the orange to get the coverage that I wanted. And when you are painting, just keep in mind that the way you lay your brush strokes will kind of help your design look the way you want it to. So I kind of did curved strokes on the carrot nose to make it look more like a carrot. And then I just took a Sharpie and just traced out his mouth. And I used some of the crimson chalk paint for his cheeks. I didn't have any red acrylic paint, so I just used what I had on hand. Just dabbed a little bit on my pinky, and it was a little bit too dark for me. So I just took a paper towel and wet that with just a little bit of water and kind of smudged that and buffed that color out just a little bit, and then just took a dry section of that paper towel and wiped off some of that excess water. So once I had my snowman face completed, it was time to work on the window frame of this project. I hope I can explain this process to you guys so it makes sense. I had a game plan in mind. I was just hoping that I could execute that and that it would actually work the way I thought it was going to. So I had this, a couple of these wooden dowel rods that I got from Hobby Lobby, and these are the square ones. So I just marked out kind of where I needed to cut these. I just laid them out over that wooden canvas frame and just marked out some lines and cut those down with my miter shears. I just did one long piece for the center, and then I took another piece and just cut that down into 2 smaller sections. And I took a piece of sandpaper and just smoothed down those rough edges where I had made my cuts. And I used my Waverly antique wax and just stained the frame front and back, and I did the dowel rods as well. And I just removed any excess stain with a paper towel. And I had asked my husband what he thought the best way would be to get this window, I don't know what you call this, the panes in, I guess. Not exactly sure the correct terminology there, but the way that he was telling me to do it was a little bit complicated. So this is how I decided to do it. It worked well for me, and so far it's holding and is pretty secure, and I'm pretty proud of the finished product. So once I had everything stained, I just laid those pieces down again and just put some marks around the outside of the frame. And I had picked up these tools in a wood carving set from the Dollar Tree. I used the round tip and the triangle blade as well on here. I just used a hammer also to get that round blade into the frame, and that just put kind of some score lines in there. And then I was able to use that triangle blade and just kind of carve out a notch. I did 4 of those for each pieces of my dowel rods. And while I was doing that, I would just periodically put my dowel rods in that notch just to make sure they were going to fit in. And to attach my dowel rods, I just used some wood glue, super glue, and some hot glue to secure those into place. And I did have to trim these up a little bit more while I was trying to get them put into the frame. I knew that if they were a little too long that they would break while I was trying to put those in there. And then for those side pieces, I used the wood glue, super glue, and that hot glue in the notch as well, and then just a little bit of hot glue on the end to glue that to the centerpiece. And then I just laid it out over the face once again to see where I wanted to glue that down. There were parts of this where it was not sitting flush with my snowman, so I wanted to be sure that I got the hot glue in the right places so it would hold. And I also wanted to make sure that my snowman's face was not sticking out too far on the bottom, otherwise this would not be able to stand up where I want to display it. And then I just put a little bit of extra hot glue on the back underneath his hat and held that down so it was attached well. And then I just took a couple of these small wood planks that you can get in a pack from the Dollar Tree, just glued 2 of those together using my small popsicle sticks. I used my Waverly chalk paint in the color plaster and did just 1 coat on that. And these wood beads were kind of an afterthought, but I thought this just needed a little bit of decorative touch to this sign, so I just glued 1 in each of the 4 corners and just painted those with that Waverly chalk paint as well. And I took some of that Waverly antique wax and just did some distressing all over the entire surface of my sign just to age that a little bit. And it just also helps those wood beads kind of stand out from the background and just give this a little bit more texture. And I cut out this phrase or decal, whatever you want to call this, with my Cricut Maker and just weeded that out and got it ready to go. I used my favorite paper transfer tape. I get this from Expressions Vinyl, and I just centered that on my sign and I got that put down with my little Cricut burnishing tool. And I thought that saying would be a perfect fit for the look on my snowman's face. You guys let me know what you think. And I just glued a jute twine hanger on the back of my sign with some hot glue. And I grabbed some of my greenery and berry picks that I have in my stash and just glued several of those down to the top of my sign. I know I covered up my holly leaves on there, but I was okay with that. I liked the greenery better. I thought it just made this sign look a little bit better. And I had a very small piece of this snowman ribbon left on a roll that I found at the Dollar Tree last year, and I thought that would, of course, be perfect for this project. So I just glued that down into the center and trimmed off the tails. And for just a finishing touch on my snowman, I found this snowflake that I had in my stash that I had cut out from vinyl, and I thought that would be super cute just to add to the band on his hat. And I just took a small cup hook and just added that to the top right corner of my window. And this is how it looks complete and finished. He is absolutely adorable. Isn't he going to make just the perfect porch greeter this Christmas? And you can absolutely change out that sign easily and transition that to something for winter. But what do you guys think about this one? So here's another really quick, easy, budget-friendly craft that you can do. Save some of your toilet paper tubes and you will start by cutting those down into rings. I cut mine into about 1/2 inch in width. And I also had several different colors of blue yarn in my stash, and I cut a lot of strips of that. These were about 7 to 8 inches in length. And this project is probably one that you are familiar with. It has been very popular for several years. We actually made these at a homeschool Christmas craft day that we had a few years ago. But you'll just want to take one of your strips of yarn, make sure that your ends are even. Just make a loop and pull that loop underneath your toilet paper tube and then thread your 2 ends through that loop and just pull that tight, and you will have kind of a knot on the top of your toilet paper ring, and you will just continue doing that until you have your ring completely covered with your yarn. And you'll want to kind of scoot your yarn pieces together to make sure that you don't have any gaps and are able to see any of that brown toilet paper tube left. Then you'll want to take that entire bundle of yarn and kind of just twist that together and stick that through. Turn that wrong side out, really, and that will make your hat for this little beanie that we are making. Just make sure that you get all of your pieces of yarn flipped wrong side out. Then just kind of comb those out with your fingers. Make sure there's no knots or tangles. Take another piece of your yarn and just knot that very tightly, about, I don't know, maybe an inch away from the brim of your hat, whatever looks good to you. And then just take your scissors and trim off all of those long pieces of your yarn. And I like to have a very sharp pair of scissors to continue trimming that down to get my little pom-pom on the top of my beanie. And I glued a cotton ball on the inside of my hat just to make sure that it would hold its shape. And I had picked up a pack of ping pong balls at the Dollar Tree, and I thought those would make the perfect snowman's head. So I just glued the beanie onto the top of one of the ping pong balls, and then I just took a black and orange Sharpie and drew some snowmen's faces on each of my ping pong balls. And my daughter Gracelyn actually helped me with this part. She had a lot of fun designing the faces for each of our little snowmen. She even named each one of them because they had a lot of character and personality. And we gave them all some really cute, rosy, either pink or red cheeks. And these are absolutely adorable. I love how these are turning out so far. And I grabbed just some white wooden beads that I had in a pack of the red, green, and white that I got from Hobby Lobby. And I also had some jingle bells in my stash. And I just laid everything out in the pattern that I thought would look the best for this snowman garland. And I used a yarn needle and just some jute twine to thread everything on. You can use either the yarn needle like I am using, or you could also use a doll needle. It just makes making garlands a whole lot easier. And I just threaded everything on there. And I made sure to leave myself pretty long tails on either end so I would be able to adjust this as needed. And how cute is this, y'all? I love this. It is absolutely adorable. And I went with the blue colors, so this will transition very well into winter. But I would love to know what you guys think about this one. That wraps up our video for today. Thank you all so much for watching. Please give this video a thumbs up and leave me a comment about which project was your favorite. Also, don't forget to click that notification bell so you don't miss any future videos. And if you haven't subscribed already, I hope you will consider doing that. Thank you again for watching. Have a blessed day, and I will see you in the next one.